I put my father in a difficult situation, forcing him to choose between his new family and me. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'm the Idiot, and ring the bell for notifications. I am 25 years old, and my father, aged 52, together with our old Cocker Spaniel, Moxie, live in the ancestral home that I inherited from my mother when she passed away when I was 16, from cancer. My dad married his high school sweetheart a few months ago, surprisingly, after 2 years of contact while on a trip with friends. This shocked me, but I respect his decision and want him to be happy. They moved into our house a week after a wedding I wasn't even invited to because I didn't even know they were dating. My dad's wife, who we'll call Steph, aged 51, brought with her twin sisters, Lizzie and Lexi, aged 20, and their 2 chihuahuas, Gucci and Hermes. They are attending a nearby state college and decided to live with us to save money on rent. My dad asked if I was okay with it, claiming the house is big enough for all of us, with 7 bedrooms, 8.5 bathrooms, a basement, and a large backyard with a pool. I agreed, but I made a mistake in negotiating a smaller room for myself, since my current one has the second biggest closet in the house. Steph insisted she needed it to store her luxury bags and clothes. He told her that this room has been my refuge for as long as I can remember and that I don't plan on changing as it is now my home. My father agreed to share the closet to accommodate her things in another room. The second problem is that the twins have a habit of entering rooms without knocking, including my office, where I am working from home due to the pandemic. Lexi, in an embarrassing moment, entered a bikini during a business meeting. Thirdly, their dogs are not trained to use a specific area for their needs and leave feces and urine all over the house, and the twins don't even clean up after them. Furthermore, they are aggressive towards Moxie, having caused a scratch on her left eye, the place where they normally nibble when they get the chance. Fourth, all family photos were removed and stored in the attic without my permission, including those of my grandparents, great-grandparents, my mother, my childhood, and other memories. It took me time to put them back in place due to this situation, which happened several times. Recently, Steph did it again, but this time she replaced the photos with images of her own family. Steph and I had an intense discussion about this. I explained to her that she cannot make decisions about the decor and photos in my home without my approval. I also suggested that her daughter learn to knock on doors and that they train the dogs to use the appropriate area. She responded by stating that they can do whatever they want in her house and that she would try to make peace. We set some rules for the house, which we must all follow. Steph is under the impression that I am indomitable, doing as I please, and that I was not raised properly by my mother, who passed away from cancer when I was 16. I was extremely irritated, to say the least. I told her that she, along with her twins, needs to pack their things as I am asking them to leave. She argued that I have no right to kick them out of their own home. I replied, "Ma'am, you are living under my roof. This is my house, which I inherited from my mother. You, your twins and your dog are trespassing. Leave before I call the police." That day, my dad came home early after Steph told him what happened. I reported my point of view, but he insisted that everyone was adapting to the house and the change. I explained all the problems we faced, but he continued to believe that things would get better with time. That's when I made the decision that he had tolerated enough. I asked him to choose between staying with them or staying by my side, and I set a deadline of the end of the week. I wondered if I did the right thing by forcing my father to make this decision. I gave them a chance, but I have endured many hardships in the past few months. What she said about my mother was the limit for me. I cannot accept disrespect for my mother's memory in this house, where I grew up. I decided to change the locks even though the property's gates are old and rusty, which I can't fix at the moment. I have also contacted the lawyer who handled my mother's will to review whether there are any loopholes my father could exploit. Regarding my father, I believe he is a good man. He worked hard to meet my needs after my mother's death and never asked me to contribute financially to the expenses. He makes a good salary as an engineer, in the six figures, so I don't believe he's after my money. It could be that he is blinded by the attention he receives, being that she was his high school sweetheart. I talked to him about the sudden marriage and the fact that he had kept secrets. He claimed he didn't know how I would react if I knew he was dating his ex-girlfriend before he met and married my mother. I was upset but got over it as he seemed genuinely happy to have her in his life. I don't know the whole story and I don't know if there was some conflict between her and my mother that led her to act that way and disrespect my mother. Steph and his kids are staying somewhere in town, but I have no idea where, and I honestly don't care about meeting them. They have the resources to take care of themselves, and if they need to, they can always sell their luxurious handbags, which take up an entire closet. If anyone is curious about the whereabouts of other relatives, know that my mother was an only child, and my grandparents left everything to her when she passed away. Most of the inheritance went to me, but my mother also left some to my father. My paternal grandparents live about 6 hours away, with my aunts and uncles. It's just my dad and I here, plus Moxie, who is doing well. She seems happier and enjoys the tranquility of the house. Now, looking to the future, I have an update to share. On Saturday, I spoke to my mother's lawyer, Amy, about the situation. I asked if there was a way to contest the will. She showed me the documents my father and I signed, reaching an agreement to resolve what was left, and we agreed not to contest the will in the future. Amy also advised giving them at least 30 days to find a new place and move in to avoid potential legal issues. Thus, the inheritance issue was resolved on Saturday night. On Saturday night, my dad and I planned to have dinner together. However, to my surprise, Steph and the twins were there, making it a family reunion. I explained that I had talked to Amy about the house and other legal issues. Additionally, I emphasized that they had 30 days to find a new place and move. Steph tried to object, but my father rebuffed her, suggesting that we try to resolve our differences through family therapy and get to know each other better. I was skeptical since it had been months since they moved in and they hadn't made an effort to start a family unless they needed something. I stood firm in my decision and asked my father if he planned to go with them or stay. He had the freedom to choose, but I made it clear that I would not maintain contact with him if he decided to leave. Steph questioned why I was kicking my father out of his own house, to which I explained that I inherited my mother's house. It seemed like they thought I lived with my father here, which was a big misunderstanding. Lexi argued that it would be difficult for them to move since the spring semester was coming to an end and finals were approaching. I responded with a smile and said they better hurry to find a new place. After that, on Easter Sunday, I invited my boyfriend, his family, and my two best friends over to celebrate. My father tried to call me, but I chose not to answer. He tried to invite me to spend the day with them, but the way I understand it, my only family now are my two best friends, my boyfriend and his family. It was a very special Sunday. We hunted eggs and shared a wonderful dinner, something I hadn't done in a long time. It seemed like the right way to go. Now, I'm in the process of documenting every item in the house that is worth more than $500. Some people came to help me, and all the locks were changed. I gave my boyfriend a copy of the key, and I'm not worried about my dad questioning him about the key, as he doesn't approve, considering himself middle class. I also hired professionals to install a security system around the house and property. I am scheduled to meet with a fence and gate specialist soon. Although I have not used the money my mother left me since I entered college to help with dorm fees and other expenses, this situation requires this immediate attention. All family photos, portraits, and the like are properly stored, while other small valuables have been placed in safes. Important documents are safe in a waterproof and fireproof safe, which requires both a key and a code to open. I am taking all precautions and following the advice I have received. The bottom line is that my father chose to stay with his new family instead of being by my side, his own son. It was difficult to accept that, for some unknown or inexplicable reason, they are more important to him than me, even though I am his only family. Since I'm not very close to his side of the family and don't have a strong relationship with them, when they move out I plan to cut off contact. One of my friends from high school is a real estate agent, and I asked her to find them a house nearby, about 15 minutes away. Reflecting on my decisions, I decided to help them with the down payment just to ease their transition so they don't feel helpless. As far as my father is concerned, we had a long discussion on the matter. He chose to stay with his new family, but we decided that we would have dinner together every Sunday night, just him and me, and that we would celebrate special occasions together. I reminded him that I cannot allow him or any member of his new family into my home, because of the disrespect that occurred when Steph disrespected my mother's memory. I don't know much about their history and I have no interest in finding out. However, based on what I know and the memories I have, my mother was extremely kind to everyone she met. I try to follow in her footsteps, but I understand that she might be disappointed in me for kicking them out. However, I am moving on. My father changed his will to include them, but I advised him not to tell them. I've been focusing on caring for him and went on vacation with my boyfriend, now fiancé, to relax and relieve stress. This whole situation has affected my mental health, and it has been a challenge to return to normality. I'm still finding myself, but I'm determined to follow my own path. Regarding marriage, it is not in the immediate plans, as my fiancé is focused on his internship in New York and building his career in medicine, aiming to become a pediatrician. He agreed to sign a prenup, and I value his independence. Although my mother's family has a history of military involvement and investing, I chose to pursue my path in the world of finance. I'm learning how to manage my own money through investments, stocks, and the like. I used part of the inheritance to make some renovations to the house, with the aim of keeping it well maintained. I'm trying to find a balance in our relationship, which is no longer the same as before. I believe we will not go back to this, but we are being civilized in the face of the situation. I've seen Steph and her daughters in town a few times, but I didn't recognize them. Why would I do it when they took my father away from me? Knowing what you know, I was naive. The sad part of this is that reality seems to indicate that my father chose to stay with his other family. I can't believe Steph actually thought the situation was reversed. My father is, for the most part, very direct. He even supported her when she had to make decisions that would negatively affect her. Based on this character trait, it's hard to imagine that he tricked Steph or made her think otherwise. I believe Steph is, in some way, trying to justify his actions. In my opinion, the way the operation handled this was probably the only way to handle the situation. There are situations where if you give a little margin, people will make the most of it. Therefore, it is not possible to give in even a little, because if that happens, they will take advantage. She opened her home and they tried to take it over immediately, setting their own rules and tarnishing my mother's name, which is why this housing situation arose. The operation told Steph, "Ma'am, you are living under my roof. This is my house, which I inherited from my mother." This was a reminder that the person Steph was speaking badly about was the reason she and her children were able to live for free during this time. If you are in a similar situation, I would like to know how you would handle it. I'm not a fool, and I refuse to just move on. Recently, my boyfriend's parents paid for some plane tickets so his siblings and their loved ones could travel to Cabo for spring break. However, his mother, Becky, always seemed to dislike me for some reason. She made sarcastic comments about my parents' jobs, who were blue-collar workers, and about my profession as a nurse. When we arrived at the airport, Becky got first-class tickets for 7 other people but a bus ticket for me, stating that I was used to it and the bus ticket was free, so I should be grateful. I was left in the long line at the bus counter and had a moment to reflect on what was happening. Although I tried not to cry the entire time I was in line, I was quite emotional. When I finally got to the counter, I was informed that there was a baggage fee for me. My then boyfriend didn't help me queue for the bus or say anything to his mother. I looked at Becky's smug face as she was about to pay the baggage fee and vented my frustrations on the attendant, starting to cry. Basically, she told me not to travel with that family, that they didn't appreciate me. I continued crying as I grabbed my luggage and left the line. I was attended to by a very friendly woman from the airline. I was so upset with the way I was treated that I started crying at the airport and broke up with my boyfriend there. His mother was so embarrassed that I called her a bee. My boyfriend is flooding my phone with messages, asking how I could do this to his mother. I just got back from vacation at the last minute, and he believes I wasted everyone's time and money. Was I foolish for refusing to board the flight? There's something about my boyfriend's mother's relationship with the operation that seems to involve resentment. Even though she said she wasted everyone's time and money, she also says she got the bus ticket for free. I assume at least some people are sharing hotel rooms, so maybe they didn't spend as much money on the hotel rooms. However, this situation is upsetting and it seems like my boyfriend's mother could have handled it differently. She could have been honest with the operation and explained the situation. It would be difficult, but it was reality. Perhaps the operation would have understood it differently. The way this happened seemed like a kind of punishment for the operation, to the point where she became very upset and called her boyfriend's mother a bee. Refusing to get on the plane seemed like the right decision for me. If the operation had gotten on the plane and then decided to leave, they would have been in a situation where they would have been at their mercy, considering the way they were acting before they even left the country. Meanwhile, the boyfriend was acting completely oblivious, as if he didn't see what was happening. In my opinion, the operation made the right choice. But what would you do if you were in this situation? Would it be foolish or not? Also, why am I considered a fool for searching my husband's pants without asking first? Here's the context. My husband, 33, was unemployed for a year. I recently started working in a warehouse. Yesterday, as I was getting ready to do laundry, I picked up my husband's work pants and, as I always do, checked the pockets before putting them in the washing machine. My husband was nearby, and when he saw me doing this, he panicked and yelled at me to stop. I had already found a folded piece of paper, but he grabbed it and started yelling, claiming that I didn't respect his privacy and that I shouldn't touch his things without permission. I was honestly shocked and tried to calm him down by explaining that I always check my pockets before washing clothes. He insisted that I should have consulted him sooner as he was concerned about the loss of some important documents like the one I had found. I asked to see the paper, but he refused to show it and said I had no right to ask after violating his privacy. That made me almost laugh, because what he had in his pockets wasn't a secret and it wasn't like a stranger was going through them. He refused to talk to me and bought a lockable closet to store all his clothes, as if it was a lesson for me to respect his privacy and not snoop. He doesn't want to talk to me. I'm genuinely confused. Did I act foolishly by checking my husband's pants without asking first? My husband knows that I wash his clothes, and part of the process is making sure there is nothing in the pockets that could be damaged in the washing machine. Putting clothes in the washing machine and checking pockets seems like overly suspicious behavior. You can't help but wonder about the contents of that paper found in your pocket. It could be someone else's phone number, or at best, something he was planning as a surprise and didn't want you to find out about. But the fact that he purchased a separate closet and put a lock on it makes the situation even more suspicious than it should be. You probably just thought it was a simple receipt or something. But what would you do if you were in this situation, where you were just doing the laundry and your partner acted so intensely because you had unintentionally invaded their privacy? Let me know in the comments. And, idiot or not, it's important to understand why. If you like this content, don't forget to turn on notifications to follow the next stories in this series. Use the playlist at the top of the description and be ready for next time. I hope you enjoyed these intriguing stories from our HistoReddit channel. Stay tuned for more exciting content and don't forget to subscribe, like and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of the incredible stories we share here. Thanks for listening and see you next time.